What's the one piece of career advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting question, David. I mean, there could be so many advices, right? But if you really wanted to break into two scenarios, right? So one on a professional front, I think one of my biggest learning has been, which probably every youngster or just starting should be aware of, that it's not your skills and talent that takes you forward after a certain stage, right? Initially, yes, you do need to learn a lot of things and make sure that you are good enough at what you do. But in the end, what wins you is your attitude, And it's very surprising. Earlier in my career, I mean, I couldn't figure out, I was like any student, I would do what I was told to do, and probably I'll do to best of my abilities, right?
Yeah.
But when I see things from here, you are always looking for good people, right? And those good people bring in those good attitudes, right? So this is where I thought, very, very important, right? More than your skills and things like that, right? This is one thing. If you really want to do better, focus on your attitude, right? And that takes you a long way. Especially in your career, you'll hit a mark from where the only thing that takes you up is your attitude. So that would be primary thing. And the other, more from a professional front, I think, and especially in today's world, right, where how the things are changing around us, I would emphasize a lot more. One that I have not followed myself, is to say that you are not your job, right? I mean, make your life much beyond your job, right? Give time to your family. Make sure that, you follow your other passions so that, you always can enjoy, whether it's a work or on your personal front. So these two things, I believe, are so critical, right? In terms of becoming a holistic professional for whatever you want to do.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career journey that made a significant impact?
Yeah, I mean, again, for 24 years, you would have so many things to tell, right? But look, I mean, if I wanted to, bring it to those who are working in the field of IT, right? And since, you guys work in a tech space,
yeah,
I think, somewhere around 2010, 11, we were doing a consulting engagement for a big banking customer, right? And like any other, consulting engagements, you would be short of skills or of people and things like that. But I had one person who I thought had a domain knowledge which was much better than anybody else, even in the banks that I could see. And we are working together, right? And that whole consulting experience was that the customer in the beginning did not believe that we could bring in the domain knowledge as much they would know.
Yeah.
But by the end of the whole assessment, right, we saw that customer turning around, right? So I think from there, what I learned that tech skill again is only about knowing how the technology can be applied, right? But the sweet spot in the world of technology exists where you are able to see both the sides, to be able to see what the business is looking for, the business problems, right? And how the technology can solve. And that's the sweet spot where, why this learning or the experience led me to believe, right? Yeah. And I think you don't find many people in industry, right, who could sit in this place, because there are people who know domain, but they do not know anything about technology. There are people who know tech, but they can't, talk or relate it in the context of domain. So that's where, I think I started working towards, making sure that I can sit there in that sweet spot, right, to be able to, not that I wanted to be a domain expert, right, but what you want to be able to do is to be able to figure it out, and that's the learning that I have followed, in terms of whatever my mentors and seniors taught me, that, you can learn it, right now. You can learn and make sure that it happens. So that's where I think my most of the achievements post that, whatever roles I did, right, probably there was at that place where, I was able to tell the stories which were sitting on both the sides of the world, right? And then you also get positive feedbacks from the customers, from, events and organizations, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm talking to David, my story should relate to David's problem, not my problems, or not my benefits. And that's a pivotal moment. So somewhere post that consulting, I did conscious effort to make sure that, I learn about a specific domain, and from there onwards, my feedback has been amazing. I mean, sometimes I even post customer meetings, I get the positive feedback, right? And that takes you further and further, right? Because it boosts your, enthusiasm, right? It boosts your ability to do more and more in that space. So that's where I would say, sit in between, find your sweet spot. And then you will get, what you want to get there.
When you can find, or you can be that person that's got that blend of business and industry and sector knowledge, and fuse that with the technical understanding and depth of knowledge in that area, the value that you can add to a customer or an organization is huge, isn't it? Because you can look at it from both sides.
And look, I mean, this is where I thought, my sweet spot would be, or where I wanted to go, right? I mean, it would vary from people to people, right? I mean, you could be you could have your own sweet spot, right? So I'm not prescribing that, you follow this sweet spot, but know what's your sweet spot, and then probably that sweet spot is where what you're passionate about, right? And then these other narratives can fall behind it, right? Once you know what you want to do, you find your sweet spot, because as you start walking, you find your ways, so then you would understand, where you're passionate, because I wasn't clear, what I wanted to do, even for quite beyond. So I'm pretty sure it's the same situation with everyone,
How do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life, and what's your go-to strategy for overcoming them?
I don't know yet.
Still a learn.
Frankly, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still get anxious. On every rejection, I still feel low. So if I would say that I figured it out, I would be lying, But one positive thing that I would say, and I look back again for myself. So there's this Steve Jobs thing, right? That, he talks about at a certain point when you look back, you see the dots connecting, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about, how he left uni to learn the calligraphy, and that calligraphy lesson was the whole idea behind the keyboard on the Apple computers, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen it myself, so every time you miss certain things, or you can't get what you want, I see later on, when I see in my own career, and there will be 4 or 5 big blocks of instances, I've always seen that, it had led me to something better, right? So at least one notion that I have, I may be anxious today, but I know that, something good will happen at the back of it, right? Which I can't figure it now. So that's one thing that I do. The other, which I have very recently started, right, which is to say, if I'm not clear, right, how do I keep myself positive, is to have some short-term goal, something which you could find, which you could be proud of if you're able to do it, right? Yeah. Or something that would be also recognize where you're working as an achievement, right? So what it does is basically takes away your worries for that moment, right? Because you start focusing on something which becomes your immediate goal, rather than
Yeah.
what you could not achieve, right? So I think that's where it comes down to, it's everybody handles his stress, rejections in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Some probably don't even care, right? I mean, so,
Yeah. I'm not
but
one
that's
of
real
those.
life. Sorry.
I'm not one of those people that I'm similar to you. I still feel the pain of any rejection in business.
Get it. Now, it's not easy. I mean, it's never been easy. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how humans are. So,
Absolutely.
and the last one is, since it's the word of co-pilot, maybe, always keep God beside you. He's your
Yeah.
co-pilot.